things. And the one I really landed on that was the best was I ran the sound system for the cheerleaders, for our rabble-rousers, for all the games. And I did that each year, I think starting maybe it was yearling year. It was definitely yearling year. So
really,
that got me as well on trip sections. So I got to go to all the games. All I had to do was set up this audio equipment so that those guys could use the mics and things. And that's really was a big sort of get out of a lot of stuff thing to do as well.
Welcome to the Courage Never Quits podcast, where members of the West Point class of 1986 tell their stories. I'm your host, Paul LaFontaine. My guest today is Joel Schlachtenhaufen, column number 43657. Schlachty will tell us about his time flying fixed-wing aircraft and his business success. As always, the views expressed in this podcast are those of the participants, not of West Point, the Army, or any organization, most particularly Deloitte. Joel Schlachtenhaufen, welcome to the podcast.
Wow, thank you. It's an honor to be here, honestly.
Schlachty.
Yeah, there you go.
You're a legend, brother. I got to tell you, you were two companies over from me, and literally, I don't think I ever saw you back at the academy when you weren't making a joke or smiling. You were always such a character.
I definitely got into many problems with the whole smiling thing.
Yes,
wanted me
I
to
can
take
imagine.
this seriously, obviously, and I wasn't very good at it.
That must have been a lot of fun as a plebe. So you're right now you're in Arizona, but you're living in Minnesota. Did I get that right?
Not exactly.
Sure.
I actually sold my house about a year ago, not quite. Okay. And my partner Lisa and I are sharing time between Minnesota and Arizona. I bought a place down here this summer, and so it's 65, 68 degrees and sunny, which is far better than being in Minnesota right now. So we'll be back up there in the summer when it's nice.
That's good. So you're snowbirding, I think.
Snowbirding
is the correct terminology, right? There you go. Cool.
Yep.
Great. And then you work remotely, or how does that work? Because you still work Deloitte, right?
I am. I work remotely a lot. Occasionally I go into the office, but I also travel a good bit. And so I am frequently at clients in other cities, in the U.S., sometimes in other countries. So it's a combination of working out of the house, working out of our offices a little bit, and then a lot of it, going to where other people are. There
you go. Okay. Now, we recently saw each other at memorial service for Mark Iverson. And of course, sad that he passed, but we were able to see the G3 crew there. There's more G3 Gophers than I'd seen in many years.
Yeah, it's a good bunch. Love getting together with the Furs. We have, just like you guys do, I'm sure, we have our distribution lists and our get-togethers and all those types of things separately. So all good. I think we had an exceptional class. And so, each company is a bit of a microcosm of that, right? But, the Furs were awesome. And, it got us all through. So, it's wonderful to have relationships and connections that last and last and last.
Well, before he passed, we had Mark on. We have had the legendary Bill Wheeze Purcell on. So you're keeping a good tradition by keeping the Gopher group alive here on the podcast. So
excellent.
So let's go back to Dubuque, Iowa, 1981-2. What was it about West Point that caught your eye?
That's a pretty complicated answer. What happened, really, this is the truth, is the year that I was a junior, one of my good friends went to the Air Force Academy and applied his senior year, and so I got to see what that was all about. And so he went off and went to the Air Force Academy. I thought that might not be a bad path, and I didn't have a great just home situation. Normal. A lot of people have challenges, stepfather, all that kind of stuff. And so, so I just wanted to go somewhere where I didn't have to ask anybody for any money and I could just go on my own. And didn't really know much about West Point at the time. You'd think, you'd know all kinds of stuff about the history and all that, and not a thing. In fact, I wanted to go to the Air Force Academy because I love the mountains, love skiing. And when I talked to the board that they set up, that was my answer. Why do you want to go to the Air Force Academy? I love the mountains. I love skiing. Nothing to do with patriotism, flying, anything, right? It was just Calgon, take me away. So nonetheless, long story short, I actually was offered the appointment to the military academy from both a senator and a representative. And both of them wrote me letters independently and said, we've chosen to give our appointment to the Air Force Academy to someone else. But if you're interested in the military academy, would love to give you. So I took the representative's offer, figuring that statewide the senator could deliver it. And then I moved out of my house. I graduated at the semester of my senior year. I got an apartment. I moved out of the house, and I lived on my own for 6 months until I ended up going to school. So I had my appointment. I was on my own.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of unusual. I was 17 at the time. I people don't do that anymore, but at the time I was like, I'm out. I was like,
right.
Yeah. So that's my story. And then
that
I
must
ended
have
up
been a very unique 6 months.
It was a unique 6 months. And again, I did not prep for West Point. So our day was a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
I mean, a tremendous shock. Yeah. You can imagine.
Did you say, but where are the mountains?
Yeah, I'm the guy who came and put his bags on the shoes of the man with the red sash. That was me.
Right. Oh my goodness, that's great. So total shock. So you'd never been there?
I had never been there. I really didn't know jack about West Point, which is a bit strange because I grew up. I could have.
Right.
I grew up playing Army, with sticks and all the things. I watched all the war movies and all those things, but I just had no clue really what West Point was about, other than it was a free ride.
No clue about the basics.
No.
Well, I think if anything this podcast has shown is that you were in good company, because most people didn't, even people who tried to study it. Very, very few of us actually showed up with a real conception of what was going to happen. So I think you were in good company. So no prep at all, came in. What was Beast Barracks like, going from 0 to 60 in pretty quick time? Yeah.
So I showed up with, because we got there on the 1st of July, I showed up with a whole bunch of fireworks, because the 4th of July was a couple days, right? So you can imagine how Beast Barracks was a blur for me, but I got yelled at all the time, and I just laughed.
What happened with the fireworks? Wait, you can't leave that one sitting there. What happened? What happened to them?
So this is what happened. I have no idea how it happened, but this is what happened. Somehow I made it through to the room, and you get the lockbox. And then I figured out the fireworks probably weren't going to be a good idea. So I took all my fireworks and loaded up my lockbox with fireworks, and nobody ever saw them. And I took them home with me the first time that we. So that's really what happened to the fireworks. But my naivete.
But you smuggled explosives into the academy, basically,
totally
is the story.
Did. And I could have lit them off in the hallways. Had I had it to do over again, I would have gone out at late night and lit off fireworks somewhere. But I just, it was all over.
We had it all to do over again. That would be
correct. Yeah.
Can you imagine the freak out?
I would have put them to good use. I totally would have put them to good use. Yeah, Beast was a blur. I thought it was just so silly. I laughed a lot. I got yelled at even more. But I made it through. We had a good group, good class. I got the snot kicked out of me by the pugil stick on the pugil stick course. I remember that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was not my favorite. So the smile we let off with you. You always had a smile on your face. How did that get you in trouble as a new cadet and then as a plebe?
Um, yeah. So I don't. Again, a lot of people, upperclassmen, felt everything that they said was really important and serious, and a lot of things were just dumb. And so, so it would cause me to, I mean, like new cadet Schlachtenhaufen, cease work, and you're sitting there at the table and you're trying not to laugh, and the guy's yelling at you, and do you want to finish your meal? And I'm like, yes sir, no sir, whatever, I don't know, like leave me alone.
Yeah.
Um, so, but there were a lot of upperclassmen that actually, in their own way appreciated it. And so you'd get some support on the back end, but there were some that were too serious, and,
Yeah.
you would just end up like locked up in front of somebody's door for, a half an hour or whatever, somebody yelling and
Fair bit
spitting,
of time.
whatever it is. Right. But
Hearing the
got through
leadership
it.
philosophy of a very serious 20-year-old.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Right.
But yeah,
So you
tough.
ran track. So talk
No,
about your
no, no, no,
sporting your
no, no,
sporting.
no, 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 no.
Oh,
Um, I,
time out.
yeah, right. Who was on the, so, I think it was T. Schiffer or somebody said, hey, if you sign up for, what do they call it? The person who hands out towels to the track, whatever that job is, right? You
Right.
you don't have to go to drill or whatever the
Yeah.
whatever the things were we had to do after school. All the marching and all that stuff. So it was solely a way to get out of that for really the first semester that I was there. And I think John Benzavanga was with me on that. So the two of us ended up, just down where the track team was, organizing the shoes and whatever, right? But it was our way to get out of that.
I had a chance to look at your howitzer entry, and there's definitely a pattern. I'm not judging, but there was a pattern, perhaps, of a series of activities to get out of things.
Oh, totally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. The Fine Arts Forum. Talk about fine arts. That was because you love fine arts?
I kind of like fine arts. I'm not going to say I didn't, but yes, it was all a pattern to
Fair
get
enough.
out of things. And the one I really landed on that was the best was I ran the sound system for the cheerleaders, for our rabble rousers, for all the games. And I did that each year, I think starting maybe yeah, it was yearling year. It was definitely yearling year. So
Really?
that got me as well on trip sections. So I got to go to all the games. All I had to do was set up this audio equipment so that those guys could use the mics and things. And that's really was a big sort of get out of a lot of stuff thing to do as well.
That is a genius move, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good.
Because you think you had they always needed you there,
They always need you there.
but like
That's right.
the perspiration level is very low. You set up, tweak some things, do a sound check, and then you let them go.
Yeah, you go to all the college campuses and all those things. Yeah, it's good. It was fun. And you have a lot of free time because you're just there to do that, and that's it. Right.
Right. The mics are working. Now where's the fun?
Yeah.
Now,
As an example, like
Iverson got involved as a part of his. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. We got a delay.
Is that what's going on? Yeah. So Ivy was part of this whole thing where he came out as a firstie as a rabble rouser. Were you part of that? Like enrolling him in that?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, yeah. Dean and I and Ivy were good buddies throughout our time, and yeah, I told him you guys should try out for the rabble rousers because you could get on these trip sections too, right? Yeah. So I was one input of probably several that got them hooked into that. But they did great. It was awesome.
It's a great story. So what did you do to distinguish yourself in high school? Were you an athlete or was it mostly grades? I mean, you had to have something in your portfolio to make you a candidate, right?
Yeah, true. In high school, I did everything. Like just because I actually had a great 3 years in high school. I had great friends. So my athletic prowess in high school was the golf team, and I majored in golf. I was good. I wasn't great, and in fact, I tried out for the golf team when I got to West Point and got cut in the last cut. And then never went back to try out again, which I probably should have. But then I was involved in other things at West Point. But in high school, I was in the high school musicals. I was on National Honor Society. I was in junior achievement outside of school, but did a lot of stuff with junior achievement. I ate up high school. I had a great time. I really enjoyed my time in high school and did all kinds of stuff. I mean, you name it, I was doing it in school.
Okay. Very active. Good. All right.
Yeah.
That's good for the portfolio. Now, what plebe company were you in? Remind me.
I-4, end of the Corps, I-beam.
You were an I-4.
Yep.
Okay. Got it. And so fourth reg. So I probably even ran across you as a plebe because I was in fourth reg as well. So I-beam, you were over in the lost 50s, right?
That's correct.
The notable characters over there from that year, the I-4.
We had our fair share of them, including the infamous Chuck Willoughby. But I can't tell you that story in this venue at all. Needless to say,
this is a family show.
That's right, exactly.
It's a family show,
right?
When the cameras go off, then we tell the Chuck Willoughby stories. What? But we had a chance to shout at each other across the way because you guys lined up right across. I was in C4 and you were in I4. Look at that. There's the connection.
Right.
So how did you find G3? How did you find that transition moving over into the 3rd Regiment?
It was actually easy. I would say it was easy. The culture of G3. So in I-4, we had a great group of 86ers, and still many of whom I'm friends with and see on a regular basis. But then moving to G3, it was, I think, and part of it was we were yearlings then, right? But everybody seemed a little more laid back than I-4, just from an upperclassman standpoint. But again, that might be the fact that we were upperclassmen. But loved the culture of G3. And again, the group of 86ers that were in G3 were awesome, like just absolutely awesome. We had a great team.
Yeah, it was a great group.
Yeah.
It's a great group. I think GH&I Company's 3rd Regiment were culturally pretty laid back. If I remember, we were told as plebes in I3, chill. So we got pretty clear instructions on here's how we do things in the old back end of the 3rd Regiment. So,
that's right.
I don't know how you found it, but
that's right.
Now, what was your course of study? Because we had to focus in on academics as you got to be an upperclassman.
So when I came to school, I thought I was going to be a doctor. That was just coming out of high school. I thought that's what I do. I got to chemistry and realized very quickly that was not going to be a path for me. I couldn't do chemistry for spare my life. So I ended up in engineering management, which was great. Okay. The very generic, course of instruction, but a lot of things interested me very, very much. I ended up taking, 3 semesters of physics, for example, just because I liked it. There were a lot of things in that curriculum that I liked a lot.
Okay. And were you always math and science oriented? Or were you a generalist that just picked math, science, and engineering?
No, I've always been math oriented. Horrible writer. In fact, when I went to business school, eventually, you have to do a pre-sample of writing, and they forced me to take an extra semester of business writing at the front end, right? Because they're like, we like you as a candidate, but you have to learn how to write. So,
Right. But you're good on the math. When it
I'm
comes to
good
the
on the
spreadsheets,
math.
you're all good.
Statistics, I'm good at all that, right?
Fair enough. Aviation. How did that come to your attention? When did you know that you were going to be an aviator?
Well, again, I think it's a theme. Aviation seemed to be the one of the most or one of the least onerous branches of the service. Now, there might be a few others. You could think about transportation corps or whatever, right? But also you get to learn how to fly, and so I got accepted to that flight school program that we had. I think in our was it our between our yearling and cow
Yeah.
year, I think. Yeah. So I went down and did
Yeah. Instead
that,
of airborne
and
school and all that, some of you had a chance to go fly the helicopters. Yeah.
correct, and absolutely loved it down there. Loved flying, and so then was fortunate enough to be just high enough in the class to make it to aviation. Sort of in the middle of the class, but just high enough to get it as a branch. And when I knew that I could do that, then there was no doubt that that's what I was going to do.
Oh, good for you. Okay. And then what? So that's like kind of cow year. You had yourself locked in on that.
Pretty much, yeah, for sure. The only thing that
Yeah.
could have kept me out was some sort of physical thing, and nothing did. Fortunately, knock on wood.
Right. So, but I mean, to give yourself credit, I mean, we're all a little self-effacing, but I mean, your grades had to be decent enough to get into aviation because they didn't allow any slouches in the academic department to get in there, right? You had a pretty decent grades.
Sure, let's go with that. Yeah, right. Yeah, they were fine.
Wow.
I was,
Good eyesight, decent
Paul.
grades. Yeah.
I think I was like 440 in the class, or somewhere around that number, right? So I was in the
Yeah.
top half of the class, but just
Yeah, the
nothing
front end of the
remarkable.
curve.
Yes.
You should have left me some breadcrumbs. I was on the back end.
Yeah. Right.
Good stuff. Now, first year, what did you spend your time doing? I mean, we needed to have fewer activities like the fine arts forum and these types of things when we get to the first year because we have cars and all that. What did you occupy yourself with as the first year?
Yeah. So first year, I think a lot of it was getting away on weekends and passes and going and doing things. I mean, I remember, again, we had a pretty tight group of furs, G3 gophers, the furs. And so we would go often to different places, either other college campuses or down to Atlantic City or, you name it. So I did a lot of weekend just get away from here and there. And I think that was most memories of things other than sort of the academic portion of West Point was that. So I did, yeah, with the
You never
group.
used Ivy's van, did you?
I never used
Yeah, you never
Ivy's
had to
van.
use Ivy's van, did you?
Well, had to.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
had to get to, I think, is the better way to say that. That's right. His minivan. Right.
Well, that's the thing. Because, I mean, Weeze told us all about the Gophers broke into two groups. One are those who used Ivy's van and those who didn't.
That's all right. Again,
All right.
stories for another day.
Stories from the boy. We got a whole slew of them. The Willoughby stories, the van stories. Off we go. So, graduation time to go. Where did you end up getting stationed? How did that work out for you?
Oh, great. So Rucker, right? I mean, we didn't have a pick at school. We had our pick once we got through flight school. But so graduation, I went.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. So you
Yeah.
basically you went aviation, and then when you got to the school, because of the skills and the way they slotted you, then you would get your units. Got it. Okay.
That's
I
right.
learned something here.
So, yep. So upon graduation, I took graduation leave, went home, places. But then I went to airborne school. I came to the basic course at Fort Rucker. We had some downtime between the basic course and the flight school starting. Because they only took every 2 weeks they started a class. So I was a little bit delayed from my start date. Right. So I took air assault school at Fort Rucker when I was there, which was kind of cool to do. And then eventually got into flight school, had a class that was about half National Guard, which was kind of neat as well. Just a different group of people than you normally might have. So about half active duty, half National Guard. Went through flight school, and then probably about 3/4 of the way through flight school, that's when you get a chance to put in your request for assignment. And so
right.
I preferenced area platform than over location, and so was fortunate enough to get a transition into airplanes right away, and so ended up being airplane to Korea and to the flight detachment in Korea.
And what kind of aircraft did you fly?
C-12s. Yeah. Interesting little known fact. There aren't a ton of fixed wing transitions that come out of any flight school class, a few, right? So, in our flight school, not, multiple classes, right? But in our year, we had T. Schiffer, Craig Rollins, Dean Rogers, and myself in G3 all got fixed wing transitions at the end of flight school, which was very unusual, but very cool. So just a little.
And what did you attribute that to? Did you, what caused that, you think?
Random luck, total random luck. Because each 2 weeks they have a slot, or 2 slots, and depending on where you are in the class, and what you preference, right? For me, having half the class with National Guard was very helpful because, they were already going to whatever they were going to, right? So, but every 2 weeks a class starts.
Yeah,
so
right.
Anyway, that was an interesting fact.
Well, look at that. That was the luck of the gopher.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
So what kind of missions does a C-12 do in Korea? What kind of things did you fly? What did you do?
Yeah, so T. Schiffer and Dean Rogers both went down to the MI battalion. So they had to do a little transition course, and then they went to the MI battalion, and they flew surveillance against North Korea in Korea. And so that was their tour of duty.
Right.
I just went straight to Korea and went to the flight detachment. And we had a number of helicopter pilots there as well from our class. Bruce Olstein is one, Dave Meyer, Darren Moore, really good, great group, and people that I still get together with today. And we just flew VIPs around, Korea, and or the helicopter mission had some UN component where they had to go up and look at violations. And so they'd fly the UN team up. But for me, it was primarily flying VIPs and military traffic around the peninsula of Korea, sometimes to Japan. Once I went down to the Philippines. I have pictures of the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders in the back of my airplane, which was kind of cool.
Well,
yeah. I've been blessed, man. I've had I've skated through a lot of stuff. There's no doubt about it. Like, that's just.
If you gave me a form and said in 1985 and said, who is the person most likely to fly the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders around, I'd have put Schlachty on it and put it right in the box.
That's right. You'd have gotten it right.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
What an interesting first assignment. Good for you.
Oh, it was great. It was absolutely great.
And now I couldn't discern it from your online profiles, but what year did you get out?
95.
You got out in 95 because you went to grad school in 95. Got it. How did that work? Did you have another assignment after Korea?
Yeah, then they forced me to go to the military intelligence course because that's really where all the airplanes, most of the airplanes are in the Army. So I got dual branched MI in aviation, and then went to Savannah. Was actually thinking about getting out at that point in time, and then DA called me and said, "Hey, we're bringing a new platform in, and your profile would be right to write the course of instruction." And it turned out that Dean Rogers also had the same profile, and so the two of us were like, "Yeah, let's go do that together." So Dean and I went back out to Huachuca to write a new course of instruction for a new platform, aerial platform. It advanced C-12. It's same airplane, just advanced. Okay. So I did that. I ended up, when I was out there, throwing my hat in the ring to command this new concept. It was unmanned aerial vehicles. So I was like one of the first commanders of an aerial UAV company. We were writing doctrine. We were, flight line procedures, everything. We were testing and training and doing all those types of things. It's kind of cool.
Really?
Yeah. And then,
back in 1994, this would be, right?
Yeah. I was in command from 90. When was it? It was a year and a half. So it was 93. The fall of 93 to the spring of 95. Yeah. So it was a year and a half in command. It was a great and that assignment.
That was considered a company command, I guess?
Yep, sure was. Yep.
Neat. Okay.
Yeah, it was neat. So I guess there's something else I was going to say. I'll think of it again later. But anyway, yeah, it was good. Oh, I know. So I wanted to go back to grad school. I got it. I wanted to go back to grad school. Right. I applied to the acquisition corps to get, so I got accepted, and they were going to send me back to grad school. And that was a point in time when we decided, hey, I had gotten married, thinking about a family, and we just decided, you know what, let's get out and do grad school on our own. And this is a good time to make a break, because if you take the tuition from the Army, it's 2 years plus 4 years after that, and it's really a career decision. And so that it was just the right time in life to say, time to resign the commission and just get out. And that's what I did. Kind of pissed off my command, but hey, such is life.
So then that's how you went to University of Michigan.
Correct. That's right.
Got it. And that was, you got an MBA there.
I did. Yeah. It was
What was the thinking on that? And what was your young Schlachty? What 95? What was the thinking on an MBA?
Oh, I knew I always wanted to get an MBA. That's why, again, going back to my time in high school when I was in junior achievement, it was a little different organization at the time. You actually you started a company, for the school year. It was outside of school. And I mean, I really like business. I was the kid who got in trouble for recognizing that there's profit in selling gummy bears, because the German club did it. And so, out of cycle, I ordered a bunch of gummy bears and brought them to school and was selling gummy bears out of my locker until I wasn't, because the administration didn't really appreciate me doing that. But I was kind of an entrepreneur, always have been. Like
entrepreneurial spirit. It's very in these days, the entrepreneurial spirit. Right. Good for you.
Yeah. Right. So business school was always in my future. It was definitely always in my future.
Okay.
And I loved it. And
then after business school, talk about your first roles out of business school.
Well, I came actually to Deloitte Consulting, where I'm working now. I didn't know what I wanted to do exactly, but I knew that consulting got exposure to a lot of different things. And so, and I love the culture. So I was at Deloitte, stayed here for a couple years, had then a chance to go do an entrepreneurial thing with a .com back when that was a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, it didn't pan out, but it was great experience. And then I did another complete, entrepreneurial thing. Didn't pan out, but great experience. Then I went to corporate just to put some food on the table. I had my third son at the time, and I needed to do something different than sort of bootstrapping. And so I worked in corporation, Target actually, for
Right.
3 years. Didn't really like it. Had a chance to go
You
back into
did. I saw
consulting.
that
So I
big
did.
red dot, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So let's talk it. This is our moment where we ring the bell and say, okay, let's talk family, because the only time we get in trouble on the
totally.
podcast and we don't talk about family. So got
Yeah.
married right while still in the Army, I think, and then got out
Still in
and
the
had
Army.
3 kids by the time you hit Target. Talk about the family.
Yeah. Yeah. So was fortunate. We had 3 boys in rapid succession, basically 18 months apart. So 3 kids in diapers at one time, and that was pretty overwhelming. And it was like, whoa, But rich, and we had always talked about 3 or 4 kids, and so my wife and I at the time, we said, look, do we want to have a 4th or not? 3 was pretty overwhelming. We said, okay, let's try to have a 4th. And if it doesn't work, we'll call it a day. My daughter arrived 3 years behind my third son. And that ended up being a speed bump. A 4th kid is nothing, especially when the other 3 are old. And so that rounded out our family. And that was the end of having kids, which was totally good. And so, we raised our 4.
4 is a good number. You've done your part.
4 is a great number, and they can pair up on things too, which is very helpful. Like, as opposed to having like an odd person out, for some things. So
what's the total year range, oldest to youngest? So is it 9 years difference? No, 18 months apart. 5 years difference?
Yeah, 6.
6 years difference.
Really 6. Right.
Yeah.
So my oldest
tight
is
shot group there as we go through.
Yeah, my oldest is 27. My youngest is 21. And so we were fine.
Okay.
I mean, look, they all have done well. None of them are, Rhodes Scholars or, lighting the world on fire with things that, a lot of people might say, what's the measure of success? But for me, they're good humans. I mean, really good people. I love my kids and they're great. They're all finding their way. Different ones are doing different things. My oldest went into the Marine Corps, and spent out of graduation, spent 4 years, and now he's finishing up his undergrad degree in computer science, but he's charted his own course. My other 3, one is graduated from school, I don't know, a few years ago, and now is working as a regional manager at Speedway convenience stores. Enjoys what he's doing. My third son started school and didn't really like it, and so he ended up, but he's really good with kids, and so he's now working in the local school system as a manager of kind of the after school programs for the kids, and he's excelling. I mean, he loves the work he does, and he's doing well. And my daughter's still trying to find her way exactly, but she started off, went to the University of Arizona, didn't like the big school and maybe being far away, so now she's back in town. But she's starting to do online stuff now, and she's moving toward a marketing degree online. But more importantly, she's figuring out her own way, and you kind of have to let your kids, work their own thing. And so, but they're doing well. They're like I said, great people, and that to me is what matters most. And I'm not overly worried about them. Like, we always worry about our children to some degree, but I'm not. They're solid.
Absolutely. But no grandchildren yet.
No no, right. Not that I know about.
No. But you that cohort makes sense that you haven't quite crossed that threshold yet. Totally
Correct.
got it. And then geographically, where are they distributed? You were saying your daughter's back near home, but so where are they all located?
Yeah, so 3 of them are in the Twin Cities. The 3 youngest.
Oh, okay.
And then my oldest is at the University of Iowa finishing up his degree.
Okay.
I kind of
Got it.
suspect
So,
he won't be pulled back to Minnesota necessarily. He's more adventuresome, and so
right.
who knows where he'll end up, but it could be anywhere, honestly.
Now, Target is famously in Minnesota area, or Twin Cities area, right? So are you, did it kind of fall from that you were always there?
No, I went to the Twin Cities because at the time we said, where do we want to raise our family? Because we were in business school and we could, we had the freedom of choice. And it's just I'm from Iowa originally, and the Twin Cities is a great location, community to raise a family and also have many different opportunities from a work perspective. So flexibility. I ended up taking my first assignment at Deloitte. Could have gone to any office, right? But we chose to go to the Twin Cities, and mostly just because of the community that's there. My relatives and my dad have a place. My dad has a place on a lake in northern Wisconsin, and some of my relatives do too. So also a place we could go all the time, family trips and those types of things. So we did that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So Twin Cities by choice, essentially, throughout your post Army years, and you made a career. That's great. Good for you. Now you've started in consulting, did some corporate stuff, a couple of startups, and then ended up back in consulting. How did that journey happen?
Well, like I said, I'm pretty entrepreneurial, and so that's what pulled me away. And I wasn't even looking for an opportunity, and then it came up, and I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Why not? And then, as I shared, I did have to get responsible and put some real food on the table, get a corporate job. I found that corporate life wasn't really for me because I am more entrepreneurial. I did like consulting when I was in it because there was a lot of freedom and flexibility. When I came back to Deloitte, it was like homecoming. It was awesome. It was, hey, Joel, welcome back.
Right.
My question, I called, I said, hey, is there room on the team? They're like, absolutely. Come on back. And, you went through the interview process to come back in, but it really was just like seeing old friends, many of them that I hadn't seen in a while. And
really all that time.
And
That's
I knew
good for
when
you.
I came back,
it's great.
Yeah. I knew when I came back that I was coming back to stay, because one thing I will say about consulting, we all within consulting as partners kind of have our own business, and it's like safe entrepreneurialism. We have, colleagues that are partners. We work together in clusters based on the services we provide or the industries we serve, and we collaborate all the time. But at the same time, we're independent enough that we can chart our own course. And I've found that this has been a great career for me. I've been back at Deloitte since 2008. So what is that? 8-15?
Yeah, 17 years, right?
Yeah, right. Far more than anywhere. And I got a year left. So, yeah.
A year left. Well, the type of work you do is acquisitions and
mergers and acquisitions.
Company structure. Yep. So just many, many different projects. It's not like you're sitting at one desk doing one thing for 17 years. You've had, how many projects do you think you had off the top of your head?
Oh, yeah.
In 17 years.
Yeah, many. Yeah. And that's part of the interest and excitement as well.
Each one of those projects is a different intellectual, each one of those projects is a different intellectual problem to solve. So it's not like you're starved for new information or new context.
Yeah. And, intellectual, absolutely, for sure. But I would say the richness comes from the emotional and human side of that, right? Because when you think about these types of activities, they involve personalities and choices that organizations make, and how it all gets navigated, and how you work through that. And I would say even more complex and more interesting are the people dimension and the relationships then you build that last a long time. There is intellectual challenge, but I think it's the people side that has kept me really engaged in that. I love the people I work with and situations I encounter. And I tend to be more of a diplomat in many respects, just in terms of,
Hmm.
how do we get people moving in the same direction to maximize the value to, the effort, the shareholder, whatever, is out there. But it's how do you get the team together, and, when there's differences and those types of things. That's what I really like.
Yeah. What's the, there's no wrong answer. What's the strangest deal you've gotten involved in 17 years? Because you have to have seen some odd situations. What was the deal where you just scratched your head and said, well, this is something new?
Well, I think so. So one of the most interesting deals was when AIG was
Yeah.
about to go under back in, I don't know, 2009, 2010. And
Uh-huh.
the government had to weigh in and, support, financially the company. The company had to undertake a number of divestitures, and we were right in the middle of it. I
Hmm.
was right in the middle of it, and um, and people don't, not everybody understands or remembers that time, but we were literally crossing picket lines to go into the office at AIG because there were protesters in New York City, about everything, and then really helping them serially divest multiple companies just to get enough cash to keep themselves, afloat. That was crazy, and
Right.
and so that was unique, and probably the one of the most interesting and quite honestly coolest things. When the dust settled in the end, you look back and you're like, wow, we did a great job. I mean, and when I say we, it was us and the clients that
Yeah.
were there working it. It was awesome.
What a career, though. So you said one more year. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So at Deloitte for partners, mandatory retirement at 62. And, we
Okay.
all are in that zone, right? So I'll turn 62 next March, and the fiscal year ends in May,
Hmm.
end of May. And so that's the last, of my tenure at Deloitte.
That's
And so
it.
people have asked me, what are you going to do next? And, my first answer is I'm going to step away and just take a little time. And eventually I may, who knows what I'll end up doing. I don't know. I'm not concerned about it. Again, have been fortunate in my life. And I don't know that I'm just going to go be retired, but I'm definitely going to take some time off
Right.
and, just do anything I want for a period of time. I certainly will do some hiking, some traveling, connecting with old friends, and then seeing
Yep.
what's out there, and then eventually, who knows? So that's where I am.
The world is your oyster, my friend. Trust me on
Ah,
that one.
that's right. Sometimes just don't eat a bad oyster.
Well, just as long as it's fresh. Um,
Right.
the retirement is everything it's cracked up to be. So I think you'll enjoy it.
Ah,
So if you go back in time and you can pick any time in your life and any circumstance, and if you were to go back and give yourself a piece of advice at any point in your life, what time period would you go to you make a difference, and what would the advice be?
yeah, that's a great question. I would say early in life. I mean, like 6 or 7 years old,
Hmm.
but you give advice, and I don't know if a 6 or 7 year old would take it, right? But drum beating the advice. If there was something, I would say, pay more attention to how you make people feel during the course of your life than how you intellectually solve things, and how you intellectually approach things. I think I think, it was Maya Angelou, whoever is, the way you make people feel is more important than anything else. It gives you then permission to help. Like you can't get things done as effectively if you're not conscious of how people are feeling about what it is that you're interacting with them on. So yeah, I would say if I had advice to give myself way back when, it would be pay more attention to EQ than you would ever think. And I'm still
Sage
learning,
advice.
by the way. I'm still not great at it.
That's sage advice and unique advice. I always try to bring these podcasts to a conclusion with a little bit of 1986 wisdom, and so that is sage advice because you hit it on the head, right? And I think, that's great. You have me thinking in real time about it. That's great. A great piece of advice. Is there any story we have not covered that you think would be interesting to add to the podcast?
Oh, I'll probably have 1,000 of them when we hang up. No, nothing jumps to mind, Paul.
But you're always welcome to come back.
Yeah. Reprise.
Excellent. Schlachty, Joel Schlachtenhaufen, thanks so much for being on the podcast. It was great catching up and talking to you again.
Thank you for reaching out. I'm honored and I appreciate it. And Pilaf, by the way, I love the things you do. The podcast is one dimension of it. I loved when you went through your journey of reading a bunch of books,
thank you.
of forswearing anything but water for a year. I mean, so we all are paying attention.
Thank you.
And I love the things that you're doing.
You.
So thank you so much.
If not the most inspiring, at least the most eccentric. Thanks so much, Schlachty. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Courage Never Quits podcast, where any member of the class of 1986 who is willing to tell their story will be a guest. To get the word out and stay up to date on the latest episodes, hit the like and subscribe button. With over 900 living graduates, we have a lot of stories to tell, and you don't want to miss any of them. We'll see you in the next episode.